There is a specific kind of silence in the cosmos right now, but we must not mistake this stillness for inactivity. It is, quite literally, the silence before a profound structural storm. We are standing at a threshold that few generations ever witness, a moment where the tectonic plates of our collective and personal lives are shifting in ways that will echo for decades to come. On February 20, 2026, a rare and formidable alignment occurs. Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and hard truth, meets Neptune, the planet of dreams, spirituality, and the infinite, at exactly 0 degrees Aries. To understand why this matters, we must look at the location. In astrology, 0 degrees Aries is known as the Aries Point, or the world axis. It is the absolute starting point of the entire zodiac wheel, the vernal equinox degree, where light begins to overtake darkness and the cycle of life renews itself. While Saturn and Neptune join forces roughly every 36 years, they have not met at this specific generative degree in recorded history, a symbolic cycle some trace back 6,000 years to the very dawn of civilization. When planets meet at the Aries Point, their message is no longer private or subtle. It becomes public, undeniable, and universal. This is a civilizational reset, a rare window where the boundary between what we have imagined and what we are actually willing to build finally collapses. The core energetic thesis of this transit is the materialization of the impossible dream. For years, perhaps even decades, many of us have carried visions or versions of ourselves that felt intangible, dreams that lived in the mist of Neptune but lacked the bones of Saturn to survive in the three-dimensional world. This conjunction changes the equation. Saturn is no longer blocking the vision. It is providing the scaffolding for it. Neptune is no longer dissolving reality. It is providing the divine inspiration to make that reality worth living in. It is the moment where the castle in the sky finally receives a foundation underneath it. We feel a sense of urgency now, not because of a pending catastrophe, but because the old systems have already begun to crack. Just days before this conjunction, a solar eclipse in Aquarius acted as a demolition crew, disrupting our certainties and shaking our assumptions about the communities and networks we belong to. We are navigating what can only be described as an unraveling, a literal uncovering of truths that were previously hidden or ignored. From the rapid advancement of alchemical intelligence and global feedback loops to the shifting of political and social boundaries, the world is asking us, what is real and what have we merely been pretending is real? This is not a time for passive observation. The cosmos is not doing this to you, it is doing this with you. It is a call to presence and deliberate action. As we move through this exploration, we will look deep into the mechanics of this shift and how to navigate the dissolving of your old life to make room for the new. Later in this video, we will provide a comprehensive breakdown for each zodiac sign, detailing exactly which area of your life is being targeted for this structural rebuild. For now, understand that you are inside a sacred window of manifestation, a 13-day corridor where the choices you make will define your personal architecture for the next 30 years. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must first look at the archetypal tension between the two architects of this shift, Saturn and Neptune. In the language of astrology, these two planets are natural opposites. Saturn represents the world of matter, space, and time. It is the planet of gravity, boundaries, and hard truth. It provides the bones and the scaffolding of our lives. Neptune, conversely, governs the infinite, the invisible, and the realm of dreams. It is the mist that dissolves boundaries to remind us of our spiritual essence. When they meet, the universe is forcing a merger between the ideal and the practical. One way to visualize this is through the crystallization of moisture. Neptune is the cloud of possibility, and Saturn is the drop in temperature that precipitates those clouds into rain or snow. This is the process of disillusionment, which, though often feared, is actually a profound gift. It is the moment we stop being blinded by what we hoped was true, so we can finally work with what is true. What makes the 2026 conjunction truly extraordinary is its location at 0 degrees Aries, the Aries Point. This is the world axis, the absolute zero of the zodiac where all cycles begin. In mundane astrology, events at this degree are not subtle or private. They ripple out into the collective consciousness, becoming public and undeniable. While these planets meet every 36 years, they have not joined at this specific generative point in approximately 6,000 years, dating back to the dawn of the corded civilization. We are not merely looking at a temporary trend, we are witnessing the laying of a foundation stone for a structural era that could define the next 3 decades. This conjunction does not arrive in a vacuum. It is being catalyzed by a series of high-voltage events, most notably the annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees Aquarius on February 17, just 3 days prior. This eclipse acted as a system crash, forming a hard square to Uranus in Taurus. While the eclipse disrupted our social networks and collective certainties, Uranus in Taurus continues to rattle the material systems we once thought were unshakable. This sequence, the eclipse as the demolition and the conjunction as the foundation ceremony, ensures that the old structures are cleared away before the new building begins. As Rick Levine suggests, the unraveling we see globally, from the rise of alchemical intelligence, AI, to the shifting of global boundaries, is actually an apocalypse in the original Greek sense, an uncovering of truth. Looking back at history, we see the power of this pairing. The 1989 Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn coincided with the fall of the Berlin Wall and a global reshuffling of political reality. The early 1950s meeting in Libra brought the birth of television culture and the Cold War architecture. In 2026, the potential for positive manifestation is immense. The impossible dream can finally receive a container. We may see breakthroughs in neurological research, the physics of consciousness, and new ways of building community that are both visionary and sustainable. However, the negative manifestation lies in the Saturn trap of cynicism or the Neptune trap of passive fantasy. If we treat this as a wishing well without taking action, it remains a dream. If we act without vision, we build a prison. Practical psychological guidance during this transition requires a shift in how we perceive stability. We are moving from a world of water and earth into a world of fire and air. As the Hopi prophecy suggests, the current of the fast river has arrived. Those who try to hold on to the edge for safety, clinging to outworn identities or structures, will feel the most tension. The path forward is to push away from the edge, keep your head above water, and look for your new family in the community. We must accept that reality is mystery, and that our consciousness is what ultimately precipitates our three-dimensional world. By aligning your internal discipline with your highest vision, you are not just surviving a shift, you are participating in the birth of a new reality. While the outer planets Saturn and Neptune define the structural era, our personal lives are dictated by how the inner planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, respond to these shifts. In February 2026, we see a fascinating and somewhat paradoxical tension. While the heavy hitters have moved into the fire of Aries to begin building, the personal planets remain largely in the mists of Pisces. This creates a retro view of the life we are leaving behind. Even as the cosmic architecture demands we leap forward, a part of our psyche is still processing the spiritual exhaustion and the old world structures we are meant to exit. This transition manifests through specific psychological symptoms. You may find yourself oscillating between strange restlessness, a feeling of energy building in the body with nowhere to go, and a deep, unexplainable fatigue. This is not ordinary tiredness, it is the body preparing for a massive recalibration. Many will experience vivid, message-like dreams or sudden downloads, fully formed ideas and sharp clarity that arrive without warning. These are the signals of your higher self recognizing that the impossible dream protocol has been activated. The psychological friction is amplified by a series of hard squares to Uranus in Taurus throughout the month. As Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and Mars each square the planet of disruption, the revolutionary energy of the new rattles the status quo of the old. This often triggers a defensive response from the ego. Like a caterpillar that might fear the cocoon because it perceives it as the end of life, our egos often fear the death of stable reality, even if that reality was stagnant or painful. We're being rubbed right up against the unknown, and those who try to hold on to the edge of the old riverbank for safety may find themselves feeling torn in half by the strength of the current. To successfully navigate this illusion collapse, we must understand the difference between the Saturn trap and the Neptune trap. The Neptune trap is treating this moment like a wishing well, setting intentions and making vision boards while waiting for the universe to deliver by magic. Neptune without Saturn is merely fantasy. Conversely, the Saturn trap is succumbing to cynicism, believing you aren't ready or that you lack the resources to begin. Saturn without Neptune is a spiritless grind. Real-life embodiment requires being practical about your magic and mystical about your work. It means taking one tangible action, sending the email, making the call, starting the project, to give your vision a cup or a container. We're currently within a golden window of manifestation that spans 13 days, beginning when Saturn entered Aries on February 13th and ending when Mercury stations retrograde on February 26th. This corridor is a period of first draft clarity, where your intentions have immense forward momentum. Once Mercury turns inward in Pisces, the energy shifts from outward construction to inward revision and editing. This is a natural latency period that allows our thoughts to catch up with our experiences, ensuring we don't jump the gun before we are mentally prepared for the next level of the launchpad. Finally, this alignment demands a shift from isolation to community and grounded presence. The time of the lone wolf is over. In a world of increasing global feedback loops and technological disruption, finding your new family, a community that holds a vision beyond current global stressors, is essential for mental stability. Groundedness is found in acting locally. We cannot improve the world if we are underwater ourselves. Therefore, the first order of business is taking care of our physical health and our own bodies, ensuring we have the vitality to participate in this civilizational rebuild. As the Saturn-Neptune conjunction reaches its exact alignment at the Aries point, its influence ripples through your individual chart, activating a specific house where a fading illusion must now be replaced by a tangible, structural reality. If you are a Scorpio sun, you are no stranger to transformation, but this shift carries a different, quieter texture than the dramatic Phoenix Rising overhauls you are accustomed to. You are being asked to find the sacred in the mundane, moving away from a psychological addiction to crisis and toward a soul-deep appreciation for the accumulation of ordinary days. If Scorpio is your rising sign, this energy manifests directly through your 6th house, the sector of health and daily work infrastructure. For you, the materialization of your dream depends on the small, disciplined habits that form the infrastructure of your life. It is the realization that a sustainable professional existence is built in the quiet of the first hour of your morning, rather than through a series of exhausting reinventing of the wheel. That need for a singular, disciplined focus moves us into the mental landscape of Gemini. If you are a Gemini sun, the current cosmos is shaking loose old beliefs and asking you to get serious about the future you actually want, rather than the 5 different versions you have been entertaining simultaneously. Your natural versatility is a gift, but in this window it can become a hiding place for indecision. If Gemini is your rising sign, this conjunction lights up your 11th house of community and long-term networks. You do not need more information or more data points. You need to make one final, concrete decision that allows the impossible dream to finally take up space in the real world. The time for entertaining possibilities is ending. The time for building one specific future has arrived. This search for what is real leads directly to Capricorn. If you are a Capricorn sun, you are the natural architect of empires, usually building on what you consider to be solid ground. However, you are now realizing that the emotional bedrock you built your adult life on may have been borrowed from family tradition or cultural expectation rather than forged from your own truth. If Capricorn is your rising sign, this transit activates your fourth house of home and roots. You are being invited to plant your roots in soil that is actually yours. Whether this manifests as a literal move, a renovation of your domestic space, or a deep psychological redefinition of safety, the universe is helping you build a sense of home that is structurally sound because it is honest. From the foundations of home, we look toward the heights of legacy with Leo. If you were a Leo sun, you have reached a crossroads where the old version of success, one built on external applause and the need for validation, is being replaced by something deeper and more meaningful. You are moving from the spotlight of the ego into the light of the visionary. If Leo is your rising sign, this conjunction activates your ninth house of expansion and the 10th house of public legacy. The impossible dream for you involves breaking borders, perhaps through a global stage or a project that seemed out of reach. Saturn ensures that as this expansion happens, it is not just a flash in the pan, but a sustainable, structured reality that is built to last. This redefinition of success flows into the social architecture of Libra. If you were a Libra sun, you were being tasked with dissolving the pretty illusions you have historically used to maintain a harmony that wasn't entirely real. The cosmos is replacing these polite fictions with an honest architecture of the soul. If Libra is your rising sign, this transit lands in your 7th house of partnerships and closest bonds. Your closest bonds are undergoing a renovation where spoken and unspoken contracts are finally brought into balance. This may mean a relationship deepens through the speaking of a long-buried truth, or it may mean a connection completes its cycle because you have both outgrown the silence you used to decorate around. That movement toward radical honesty creates a profound sense of value for Pisces. If you are a Pisces sun, your solar return is occurring in the middle of this cosmic sequence, and it carries extraordinary weight. You have spent years absorbing the needs of others and holding space for the collective, but you are now being reminded that you are allowed to want things for yourself. If Pisces is your rising sign, this conjunction activates your 2nd house of values and material resources. The universe is signaling that your spiritual gifts have a tangible, real-world value. It is time to stop apologizing for taking up space and to recognize that the material abundance you seek is not separate from your spirituality, but a direct expression of it.
For Sagittarius, this newfound sense of worth fuels the fire of authenticity. If you're a Sagittarius sun, you have spent a long time filtering yourself or adjusting your volume to fit into rooms that were never built for someone as expansive as you. The eclipse in your network sector may have left you feeling hollow, but the conjunction is now redirecting that energy toward what actually makes you come alive. If Sagittarius is your rising sign, this transit in your 5th house of creativity and romance, you are moving from being the eternal seeker to the master artist, birthing a legacy through projects or fated connections that are both spiritually destined and structurally sound. This creative fire finds a deep internal container in Taurus. If you're a Taurus sun, the universe is conducting a psychological archaeology of your unconscious mind. You're being asked to look at the conditioning and inherited beliefs that have secretly run your life from the shadows. If Taurus is your rising sign, this conjunction occurs in your 12th house, the most hidden part of your chart. With Uranus still transiting your sign, you might feel like you were being taken apart from the inside out, but this is not destruction. It is the excavation of buried fears that have been running your decisions. You do not have to figure it all out today. You simply need to be willing to see what surfaces. This deep inner work informs the professional evolution of Cancer. If you're a Cancer sun, you are navigating a tension between your natural need to nurture and a soul-deep call toward larger visibility and professional growth. You are redefining what it means to be successful without losing your heart in the process. If Cancer is your rising sign, the conjunction hits your 10th house of career. Saturn is not asking you to choose between your home and your ambition. He is asking you to build a career that feels like home. This is about building a public life where every floor belongs to you, rooted in your own internal sense of authority rather than a desire to please. For Aquarius, this shift is deeply mental and communicative. If you're an Aquarius sun, the recent eclipse in your sign has likely left you catching your breath, feeling a fierce energy to act in ways you don't fully understand yet. You are standing at the end of an old narrative and the very beginning of a new one. If Aquarius is your rising sign, this transit in your third house renovates your mental patterns and the words you use to describe your life. Pay close attention to the small choices of what you say yes and no to this week, as these daily communications are writing the script for a chapter where you no longer live within the limitations of your past stories.
This mental clarity leads Virgo to redefine the nature of intimacy and service. If you are a Virgo sun, you are being shown that a version of helping that leaves you depleted was never true service, but rather self-abandonment disguised as virtue. You are learning to merge with others without losing yourself in the process. If Virgo is your rising sign, the conjunction activates your 8th house of shared resources and deep transformation. As you move toward a major lunar eclipse in your own sign, this is your invitation to finally claim your seat at the table you have been quietly setting for everyone else, restructuring how you share your energy and your life with others. Finally, we come to Aries, the protagonist of this new cycle. If you are an Aries sun, this is your moment in a way it has not been for decades. Whatever has been foggy about your identity or your purpose is about to get extremely clear, though that clarity may initially feel uncomfortable. If Aries is your rising sign, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction lands in your first house of self. After years of private preparation while Saturn was in Pisces, you are now graduating into a public reality. You are being handed a once-in-a-lifetime invitation to rebuild yourself from the ground up. The impossible dream for you is becoming the person you have always known you could be, stepping into a power that is undeniable and a reality that is finally your own. As we bring this exploration to a close, we must return to the central pillar of this transit, the understanding that we are not merely witnessing an event, but participating in a civilizational reset. The alignment of Saturn and Neptune at the Aries Point, the absolute 0-degree starting point of the zodiac, functions as a world axis, a cosmic megaphone that makes the invisible visible and the private public. This is the foundation ceremony for a structural era that will likely define the next 30 years of our lives. While the shifting of these tectonic plates can feel like an unraveling, we must remember that the original meaning of apocalypse is not destruction, but an uncovering of truth. The work ahead of us is not about reacting to external chaos, but about a deliberate and disciplined integration of our highest visions into our physical reality. Saturn in Aries demands that we stop dreaming about the life we want and start building it, even if the initial blueprint feels messy or the ground beneath us remains shaky. We are moving out of an era of spiritual exhaustion and into one of raw initiation. The stars are not doing this for you, they are doing this with you, and your primary responsibility is presence over perfection. To navigate this threshold, you must prioritize acting locally while thinking cosmically. In a world of global feedback loops and technological disruption, the first order of business is your own grounding and physical vitality. You cannot improve the lives of those around you if you were emotionally or physically underwater. This is also the time of the fast river, where the safest path is to push away from the edge of outworn structures and find your new family in community. You are currently inside a 13-day golden window of manifestation that remains open until Mercury stations retrograde on February 26th, a brief corridor of clarity to set your first draft of reality into motion. To align yourself with this new structural era, consider these 5 psychologically sharp questions. 1. What is truly real in my life right now, and what have I merely been pretending is real to maintain a sense of safety? 2. What dream have I buried so deep that saying it out loud feels dangerous, and am I now ready to give it a tangible container? 3. Is my current daily rhythm actually supporting the person I am becoming, or am I still managing a version of myself that has already died? 4.
What have I been afraid to create or express simply because it reveals too much of my authentic self to the world? And 5, am I willing to let my outworn certainties shatter so that something truer and more resilient can take their place? We are standing at the end of an old narrative and the very beginning of a new one. The impossible dream is no longer impossible. It is simply waiting for you to provide the bones and the scaffolding it needs to survive in the world. Be gentle with yourself as you navigate this transition, but also be brave. The cosmos has already chosen this moment for you to jump. Trust that the storm is not here to break you, but to build you. Stay present, stay grounded, and begin the work of building a life that is as spiritually inspired as it is structurally sound.